In our bathroom cabinet, we ended up adding some switches, some electrical switches that allow us to have light in here when the door is open. And golly, that's some serious tape there. One of the additional things we have to do is adjust this to not only grab the door, but to make sure that the electrical switch here is turning off correctly. So I'm going to fake it by doing this. Surprisingly, that turned out spot on. I got these from Lowe's this morning. That keeps it nice and firm in there. I think that looks all right. I definitely have a little bit of work to do around these edges because I ended up using that tape and they always seem to pull out. So I'm going to have to get a little tiny brush and clean that up. But, you know, if you look at it from the 3-foot view, that's not too bad. Still working on painting. This shows the first coat of primer. I'm going to be working on the second coat of primer. My idea of a successful paint job is that I have more paint on the wall than on me. It's debatable, but I think there's more on the wall. Okay, I know this still looks like a complete disaster, but this was definitely the most challenging area so far, and this is 2 coats of primer. Just getting around all these electronics without getting them full of paint, well, it's not always going to happen. In my bags, I ended up putting hardware in tape, just because there were so many on this electronics panel that it made sense to do that. I wanted to get the hardware right, and in the bathroom I ended up with about a small handful of hardware that I still don't know where it goes yet. For those of you who have a Cerbo GX touch screen, if you ever want to get that thing out, do not try to pry it. There is a special little plastic tool that you need in order to get this out. It clips in on the sides here, and this tool just gets into the crevice here, and then you just rotate it in order to remove the panel from the mount. Don't use a screwdriver. Okay, one of the things that I like is having my own tools versus, you know, Gary has his, and I have a minimal amount of stuff that I can use all the time without asking him where the tool is, because I personally cannot find anything in his truck. But what I do have in the camper always is an electric screwdriver. This thing is fantastic. It's small, and I ended up getting myself a small bit set that works really well with this. Between these 2 things, I have the majority of situations. The one thing that this came with is a 90-degree bend option, which is also fabulous. I went to look for it, and of course Gary has borrowed mine because he can't find his. So if you are full-time or being on a trip for a long time, have some tools in the camper. It makes things so much easier. Gonna scrape off the paint bits. Never said I was the cleanest painter. I don't know how, but I got paint on my butt. I must have been bending over somewhere. Well, the last few days have been a little bit interesting. It was paint the bedroom day, so we knew that we would have to remove the bed in order to paint around that stuff. Everything is just too close in there. So we took our mattress and slept in their living room while our paint was drying. And yeah, it's a complete and total disaster in here. I think that's kind of expected. I had to move some of the stuff from our cabinets in there so I could paint on the edges. And we're messing with the kitchen. Yeah, that's a project that we'll talk about later. But so far, so good. Boy, I am really liking the layout here. I think it really brightens things up a bit. And if you haven't seen one of these, this is called a Froli system. The main purpose of it is to elevate the mattress so you're not getting a lot of moisture underneath, especially when it gets cold and damp. This is fantastic, except when you're trying to get the mattress on top of this. All right, this is where we slept for 2 nights while we were painting. Now we're going to have to get this folded into a long taco and then carried back out to the camper. Oh, jeez. Not the easiest thing to grab. I lost it, sorry. Give me a second. That's a lot better than it was. That didn't turn out too bad. It almost looked like we knew what we were doing. Almost. And if you've owned a truck camper or an RV with a bed with no walk around, you know how easily you can get your entire week's worth of exercise in one task, making that bed. Guess the backsplash is coming down in order to get countertop off, which is a bummer.
They put down a piece of Luan and glued the countertop to the Luan. So in order to get the kitchen sink off, you got to take the Luan with it. And then that'll leave you just the framework underneath. But they glue all of this stuff down and staple it in, so you got to work your way around and pry up on it until you can get the glue to break free. And now I got to work the stuff that you can't reach.
So this back area here is glued on pretty well, and we don't have leverage to get in there because the sink is in the way.
The other secret is to use the thinnest possible one you can find, and then get one with a little hammer head on the back end, so you can take a little hammer and hammer it through some of the glue.
Wow! I think you got it. Guess I'm getting a different backsplash. Although those Home Depot ones, man, they held really well.
It's right there in the middle, and on that side where I can't reach it.
Oh boy. That's because there's a ton of staples back there. Whoa. All right, here is an overview of what I'm starting with. So one of the things that I want to do is that this piece here, we have a garbage can that fits here, but there's nothing above. And that's normal because the sink was incorporating this area. But since we're going with a smaller sink, I want to be able to put in a drawer there. But I'm going to have to do a little bit of rerouting of power lines and 12-volt lines. But yeah, this is kind of what it looks like. This again is where we had our 2 drawers and where the stove will be shortly. Just kind of a view of the overall Cascade kitchen area. If you have any questions, let us know while we have things torn apart. Well, I think I got the kitchen portion done, and I think it looks okay and prepared for the drawer. I do not do woodworking well, so if you are a woodworker, you need to walk away right now. All right, so I took this piece out because that is where the next drawer is going to be. This bottom section right here is with our existing garbage can. And honestly, it didn't really have much support in here at all. So I ended up adding just a piece here, kind of screwed to the wall, and also screwed on the side here because, you know, I just am not really good at doing all this stuff, but I think it's pretty sturdy. I mean, I'm only going to be putting small amounts of kitchen utensils in there, so I think it's actually pretty robust. As far as this middle panel, this was pretty rickety before. It didn't really have any support anywhere, and it holds our Activa system, so it needed to be better secure. I just kind of cheated and put a bracing piece between here and this, and it's relatively sturdy. I was going to put one on the back, but I didn't see the need to do it. It seems to be reasonable enough. As far as wiring, so I'm looking down into the sink from behind. This cable here was all in this area, which I had to reroute. So I rerouted it on the side. It now goes down kind of reasonably around. I did reroute this cable here. This cable was over here, but I instead routed it all the way around the side and around. It actually had enough length on it, so that's nice. So this was just a matter of P-clipping and that kind of stuff. So we got our sink in today, and boy, she's gonna be tight, but I think she's gonna fit. I just have no idea how I'm going to do the cutout so she's not hitting this line. That's what I'm worried about the most. Yeah, I'm tired. Although probably not as tired as Gary. Gary's been working downstairs in the basement the entire day. For those of you who have done wiring down in that area, it is absolutely not comfortable. So I guess I'm quite happy that I had so much space here in the kitchen area. And yes, our camper still looks like a pigsty. Tools and stuff over here. Yeah, starting to get a little frustrating, but hopefully in maybe a week, probably more like 2, hopefully we'll get more of this done. Next part of the kitchen is to demo the area for the stove. It's funny that I had to paint that, but I wasn't quite sure how we were going to take everything out, so might as well make it pretty before we break it all into pieces. Alright, I'm still working on demoing the kitchen area, working on getting the area for the stove cleaned out, and most of this framework is fairly simple. It's just 1x1s or 1x2s, but the front is actually using pocket screws. So as I was trying to remove these things, we hit something really hard that we couldn't get out, and that's why. We had to remove this piece here, and then you can access these. So if you run into problems, there may be pocket screws in your way. Something as simple as removing just a few pieces of wood seems to take forever, but you know, that's part of the project fun. Well, looky there, I got a nice open space to prep for that stove now. Next step is build a platform. Yep, gonna get right on that. I think I might have said before, I'm not the best woodworker, but I'm gonna give it a shot. I did say I am not a woodworker, but I am still willing to give it a go. I ended up buying one of these Craig pocket hole joiners to help me with getting some added pieces in here. So what I need to do is I got a piece of wood and I need to butted up against some pieces of wood that I obviously can't remove. So I thought using these pocket holes might be a good idea. So then I can screw these into the sides. Hopefully this will be robust enough to where I can put a platform on here for our stove. After doing the YouTubes to figure out how the heck to use this thing, I think I've figured it out. And I'm just going to add that piece over here. It is a bit of a snug fit, which is not a bad thing. And they have these fancy screws here that, of course, I bought the wrong size. I think I should have bought 1-inch screws, but I bought 1 1/4. So yeah. On these back ones here, because I bought the wrong size screw, the head is sticking out just a wee bit on the other side, but nobody else is going to notice it. So yeah, nobody's going to know except me and you. So don't tell anybody. We're going to put a piece of plywood over the top here, and that's basically our platform. This gives me enough room to figure out what's going on in this lower cabinet, which is getting small. So yeah. Well, today I am excited and nervous about our next step. We are checking to make sure that the sink that we purchased for the kitchen is actually going to work in the space. In the Cascade, there is a lot of things that that can get hung up in that area, and I chose a sink that I think will work, but it's really going to be tight. Okay, here is the sink. We are trying to create like a fake top that we're going to cut to make sure that everything fits. But the challenge is, if you haven't seen before, this newly created area for my drawer might get in the way. Our propane lines and our propane area back there, that could be a problem. And over here, we've got the switches for the water heater. So all of that and this funky angle kind of create a little bit of a nightmare to figure out what size sink we can actually use. So
if it doesn't fit, we can always
so
adjust.
20 mil?
I would go to, what is it, 18-ish?
You're gonna make me estimate that close? Isn't it pretty? I love this sink. So I'm hoping it'll work. This was 1/4 inch because it was cheap. The actual stuff we'll be using is 3/4 inch, so it's not going to bow as much, but it will give us an idea of whether we have enough space to put the sink in. Okay, so here is the hole, and if I look straight down on the hole, I'm kind of screwed, but I'm hoping that that angle on the back will help a little bit. Okay, you've got to see how close this was. So this is why we're doing a sample piece. So that's, I had some room there, which is good. Those switches, yep, those will be fun to get to if I have problems with them, but yeah, close but possible. And that, we were in really good shape there. So much better than I thought when we first started. So we're going to go ahead and drill the holes for the Activa and hopefully a soap dispenser over here. Again, still not sure if the soap dispenser will work, but if one thing has to go, that's okay. All right, I got a little ahead of myself. I got excited about this. I started reworking some of the drawers in the kitchen. So one of the things we had to do was take our large drawer that was in the very bottom and shrink it quite a bit. So our drawer, minus the front piece, is now shorter, but not as bad as I thought. I think the majority of items that I stored in there will work still, hopefully. I'm currently working on making the top drawer, which is no longer, because that's going to be where the stove is, and squishing it a little bit, a lot, and using it for the drawer above our garbage. So you're going to have to use your imagination because, again, I got too excited and started cutting before I realized, hey, I'm not taping stuff. So the drawer was dramatically longer than what it needs to be now. I took the side pieces here and I am going to make this little tiny box instead. So I know that using micro pin nails and wood glue is probably the least robust option on how to make drawers, but this is a tiny drawer. I don't think I'm going to need any more than that. Here's the side of the drawer, which looks great. The bottom piece here doesn't extend to the edges. When I cut it, I just cut it straight and didn't think about the backing. So I need an additional backing on this side. So this is where Gary's hoarding does come in handy. I know I complain about it all the time, but he's got too much crap. But I'm going to replace it with a piece of Luann that he had hanging around in the basement. So, yep. And there she is. She may not be pretty, but she'll definitely be functional. Nice, robust, able to handle kitchen utensils easily. Yay! Well, I think I might have just maybe have missed one measurement on my drawer. Yep, maybe one measurement. And we want to send out a big thank you for sticking with us and watching our videos. We really appreciate it. We are hoping to get these wrapped up in the next few weeks. We'll see. We'll continue our kitchen saga and trying to get the rest of some electrical things done that Gary is working on, among some other things that I of course forgot. But in the meantime, leave every place you visit a little bit better, and we'll see you on the next trail. Take care.